You guys know I love podcasting and listening to podcasts, and I'm guessing if you're listening to this that you love podcasts too. Have you ever considered podcasting yourself? It is a great way to reach your audience, grow your know, like and trust factor, and not need to show your face unless you want to. If it is something you've thought about but you don't know where to start, then head over to becomeapodcaster.uk/BAP quiz, BAP quiz, to access a 2-minute quiz that will help you work out what type of podcast might suit you. That's becomeapodcaster.uk/BAP quiz.
Hey guys, you know me, I am always talking about multiple revenue streams and how you can diversify your portfolio to make sure that if one ball drops, you've still got others in the air. Well, today's guest is going to be helping us with that by talking to us about how we can turn our passions into profits. He is 4-time Affiliate Manager of the Year, and he has helped entrepreneurs and companies such as Shark Tank's Kevin Harrington, Stu McLaren, Adidas, Ray Edwards, Brian Tracy, Lewis Howes, Shutterfly, and Michael Hyatt with their affiliate launches. Now, some of those names you may recognize, some of them you might not. I recognize almost all of them because I am huge at following the online business entrepreneurs. So I'm very excited to have Matt McWilliams on the show today to talk to us about how we can turn our passions into profits. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I am always super excited, as you know, when I get to bring a guest on the show. And today I am bringing another lovely guest, another lovely author called Matthew. Matt, welcome to the channel.
Thanks for having me, Donna.
I am so excited to have you here. And of course, as always, I am always ridiculously excited when I hear an accent from over the pond.
Oh my gosh. It's the other way around for me. Like I love, like in America, if somebody says lovely, it just sounds so weird. You know, like the lovely guest, I'm like, I'm not, but when somebody from like male or female, when a British person says it, it's like, it just makes sense. That's like an exclusively British word, I think.
Do you think?
The word lovely. I think so. I just don't think it works in America.
Oh dear. Well, we do have our ways, don't we? We all have our little quirks.
Totally.
Brilliant. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about your book, Turning Your Passions into Profits. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you've come from, what it is that you do in your day life, and how you came to be writing the book.
Yeah, I mean, the book itself, it's been ironically a passion project. You know, it's been a message that I've had going on 7 years now. And finally, about 2 years ago, started writing it. And it was one of those things like so many people, you know, the studies show 88% of people want to write a book and only 1% do.
True.
Or less than 1% do. What's the other 87%? They let life get in the way. And it's not what we're talking about today, but I have to say this because I get asked about this a lot. Like, you know, I run an agency, own 2 companies, have my own platform, record, you know, a lot of content, produce a lot of stuff, got a lot of stuff going on. We, you know, got a growing team, getting close to 20 people. We work with some of the biggest names building their businesses, people like, you know, Kevin Harrington, Stu McLaren, Ryan Levesque, Jeff Walker, Tony Robbins, you know, Dean Graziosi and others. And they're like, okay, how did you write the book? And I told them, like, the reality is I had about a 3-week stretch in early 2021, starting with our Christmas break. We shut down as a company every year for about 2 weeks at the end of the year, beginning of the year, and then in the middle of the year. And I was writing for like 2 hours a day. And then we hit our busiest season of the year. And I talked to our operations manager, Robbie Miles, who's also a productivity guru of his own. I was like, how do I pull this off? Man, I can't stop. I can't just leave the book 1/3 finished. And I also can't write for 2 hours a day for the next eight weeks. And he's like, well, how long can you write? And I'm like, 20 minutes. So we set this thing. I was set a timer for 17 minutes, Donna. Every day, 17 minutes. I got down to the office 20 minutes early. When that timer went off, as soon as I hit a stopping point, I would write my notes for the following day. and I would call it quits. If it was 17 and a half minutes, I was done at 17 and a half minutes. I gave myself 3 minutes. I only went over, I think, twice. There were a couple times where I went over by like 2 minutes, 17 minutes to 20 minutes every day consistently. And I wrote, actually what ended up being a 117,000 word manuscript that we cut down. There's an old letter, I forget who wrote it, that said, sorry for the long letter. If I had more time, it would have been shorter. And, I felt that way because I was just pounding out, 1,000 words a day. That's how I did it. It took me 98 days and I pounded out the book. But it comes from just my background. I got into online business by accident many, many years ago, running golf schools with my dad, and found that I was terrible at the golf school, the teaching golf, but I loved the marketing side of things. I love this internet, I love the whole idea of it. And again, this is back in 2005. And, fast forward over the past, 17, 18 years, this is my, fourth company online. We've built it from scratch. It's the fourth one I've built from scratch. I never started with connections or, VC money or any of that stuff. We started all of these with, quite frankly, a few $1,000 in a dream. And all but one of them was started, in a garage or above a garage. Sorry. This one was started in a basement, so three bonus rooms in a basement. And there's been these principles that I've learned along the way that we put together in these 10 steps. These are the 10 steps basically that I screwed up, that I didn't know, that I didn't figure out, that I did wrong. Occasionally I stumbled upon one and got it right and went, well, that's a cool thing. But the reason why this is my fourth business is the first one, I got the first few right. And then I hit a wall and I screwed some stuff up and we failed. And then I went back and did the first 4 right or 5 right, and then screwed up again and failed. And then I got the first 7 right. And then finally with this one, we've gotten all 10 right, and we've been able to help, hundreds, possibly thousands of other people get all 10 right. And we decided, we got to put it into a book. So that's the story of how we got here.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I think you're so right, because I am somebody who says, I would love to write a book one day. I know I've got a book in me, but somebody said it the other day. It was a podcast I was listening to, actually. What's her name? Francesca Amber, I think it is. And
Yes.
she said to me, see, this is what I love about podcasts. You feel like the people are talking directly to you. She said to me, right? It was just to me. She was only talking to me, and she said, where your energy goes is where your money flows, or something along those lines. And it's so true. And it's true with anything in life. Where you focus your energy is what will grow in your business, in your life. So if you make it a priority to write a book, then you'll write a book. But if you just sort of sit there and go, oh yeah, I'd love to write one, but you don't actually carve out just that. And a lot of people think that they need more. Oh, I need so much time to write a book. But like you just said, if you gave yourself 17 minutes with 3 minutes just to write down anything so that you didn't forget it for the next day, and you can do it. So I think that is a fabulous lesson.
I'm going to challenge you. This was not on the agenda, I'm sure. I'm going to put you on the spot. This is what I do. This is my passion, right? This is my thing. It's taking people who say, I want something. And then okay, how do we go from want to get, and then there's a middle step, which is need. You usually don't get what you want, you get what you need. I mean, isn't that Mick Jagger, that said that? I didn't even think about that as I was saying it, but it's totally another great Brit, there. And so I'm just going to challenge you, put a date 6 months from now, 6 months, you can write 8 months, it doesn't matter, but it is a definitive date. If 6 months is like, that's just too soon, I don't know if I can pull it off, it doesn't matter. But if it's indefinite, it's just never going to happen. We know that, like, someday is never, someday is never, right? Nobody ever books a trip to someday Isle, is what, Zig Ziglar used to say, right? It could be 8 months, 9 months, whatever. And then you start on it. And again, it could be 20 minutes a day. It doesn't even have to be every day. For me, I knew I had to do it every single day, but it could be 3 days a week, 20 minutes a day, 3 days a week. You could go to a cabin and finish it in 2 weeks if you think that. But here's the deal. Most of us running businesses, that is just completely impractical. I'm not a full-time author.
Yeah.
If I'm going to spend 2 weeks away from my business, you know what I'm doing? Nothing. I'm going to spend it with my family on a beach, going to Disney World, doing whatever I want to do. It doesn't involve 2 weeks in a cabin writing a book. Actually, it just sounds like torture to me. So that's just me personally. Maybe for some of you listening, you're like, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. I would think that would be the most tranquil thing ever. I can sip
I'm
chamomile tea all
actually
day, have a
thinking
fire
that for
going.
me. I'd love it.
And whatever it is, like in 6-8 months, that book is done. Like you put it on the calendar and you just commit to doing it. And then you already have the content. This is the thing. There is a lot of new stuff in the book that I've never shared anywhere before. I would say probably 30 to 35% of the book is brand new stuff. There's some stuff I talk about in step 3 about standing out. There's some stuff I talk about in step 3 about attention triggers. Step 6 about championing a cause. I've never shared any of that stuff. I talk about revolutionary leaders. I talk about your kind of the archetypes and roles that you need to play in your company. There's 7 different roles that you can play. We could talk about those if you want, but like the how you present yourself to your audience. I've never talked about those anywhere. But the reality is that 65-70% of the book is stuff that I have talked about. Maybe I've talked about 10% of it or 20% of it, and I expound upon it in the book, but it wasn't like the concepts were brand new to me, but now they're in a different format. Maybe I talked about it on the podcast. And so the stuff's already in you. You have it all in you. You have things you've learned from interviews, things that you've learned from other places, things that you've been teaching and principles that you could build the book, right. You could have the outline done. Like I had the outline of the book done in, no joke, I had it done in less than an hour.
Wow.
The steps that you see in the book, and even some of the subheadings and sub chapters in the book, that was all done within an hour. So when I sat down that first day to actually write, people talk about, I don't know how to start. The cursor is blinking at me. I had a blank page. Well, don't have a blank page. It's take an hour or so, or it could be a week, 20 minutes a day, and you outline that. So when you sit down to write, you've got that stuff in front of you. And then just one more tip while we're talking about writing book tips here. I mentioned earlier that 17-minute thing hit, and I would finish writing whatever I was writing in a minute or so. And then I would write the very next sentence, or I would write like my 3 bullet points for the next day. So that when I came, and I don't sit to write, I stand, but still when I would stand to write, I immediately was like, boom, I'm good to go. And in a weird kind of way, this might sound like super spiritual. It's not. It's actually psychologically proven. My subconscious was working on my next day's writing for the next 23 hours and 43 minutes. It was, even while I was sleeping, it was working. And I'd wake up, make my coffee, come down, start writing. It was like, this is easy. Why was it easy? Because I'd already told my subconscious, here's what you're going to be doing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like if you just suddenly, my daughter plays soccer. She knows weeks in advance. She had a soccer game yesterday at 5:30. So she was preparing for it on Monday and Tuesday. Her subconscious was playing out how this was going to go. She had a great game. If 4:30 had rolled around and they'd be like, oh yeah, you have a soccer game in an hour, I don't know that she would have played as well.
Yeah.
Same thing is true of your writing. You got to kind of have your subconscious working on that in the background.
So true. Well, thank you for those tips. Yeah. I written the challenge down.
Okay, so here's my question for you. I know this is terrible. I'm putting you on the spot on your own podcast. I know I'm just a terrible person. Do I have permission from you to keep in touch about this? Okay,
absolutely.
So
yes.
you're gonna tell me the date. I'm gonna be your accountability partner, and at some point in the very near future, guys, Donna is going to be on my podcast talking about her book, possibly. And she's going to spend like 6 weeks telling you all about her book, selling the heck out of it, and you all are going to buy it. So as long as we're all in agreement on that, we're good to go.
We're good to go. Fantastic. Love it. So I just wanted to let everybody know how Matt came into my realm. It actually came through one of those people that he said he helps in his business, Stu McLaren. Stu McLaren is a big proponent of my business. Absolutely love the man. And Matt was working with Stu on something, and I got onto Matt's email list because of that. And then obviously you guys know I had Amy McLaren, Stu's wife, on last year talking about Passion to Purpose, her book. And then Matt reached out about this book, and I was just like, this will be fantastic. This will be a fantastic follow-up. So we've done Passion to Purpose. We've discovered your passions and we've looked at all of that. Now we're going to see how we can make these passions profitable, which is really important. Now, Matt, my audience is UK wedding vendors, and I do have a lot of people outside the wedding industry that I know listen to me as well, because I've got some great friends that are very supportive. So I know there are different people in different areas that listen to the podcast. One of the things that I like to share is how to grow and streamline your business. That is kind of my main focus when I'm delivering a podcast episode. But one of the things that I also want to do is to help people to get into the industry, to find their passion and turn it into a business. So that is why I thought bringing you on would be a really good idea. So in talking about passions and profits and how we do that, where do we start with turning our passion into profit?
For me, there's three questions that we walk through in the book. And these are the three questions that I kind of went through about 10 years ago, to kind of decide what direction I want to go. And this came about, so my podcast, for example, is the Affiliate Guy podcast. And there's a funny story behind that because I got into online marketing again with golf schools, but I started my current platform at mattmcwilliams.com. I started it teaching personal growth and leadership. Mm-hmm. And people are like, Matt, you gotta teach people this affiliate thing. Like, Matt, you're running these big launches. You're working with people like Kevin Harrington. You're working with people like, Michael Hyatt, Jeff Goins. And then again, eventually we, coach teams with like Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Jeff Walker, and others. And they're like, you've gotta teach this affiliate stuff. I'm like, but I don't want to be the affiliate guy. Like, I want to be something bigger than that, And so maybe there's people who are thinking, well, I don't want to be like the wedding lady. I don't want to like that. How is that changing the world? Right. I want to do something big because we see an Elon Musk who creates an automobile company. And now there's, 500,000 Teslas on the road and they're going to space, or we see an Amazon, I live in a town where, about 300,000 people in the city of Fort Wayne, Indiana, about 500,000 people in the county, and almost 2% of the population of my county is employed by Amazon now. It'll be over 3% in less than a year. Think, okay, that's what we got to do. Amazon changed the world. And there's no denying, for better or for worse, that's debatable. I'm not going to get into that right now. There's no debating that changed the world. How's a wedding vendor going to change the world, right? And I remember I got asked that question by an accountant. The guy was like, so we're talking about championing a cause, being a hero. This is step six in the book, how to be the hero for your audience. He's like, dude, I teach accounting. How am I going to be a hero? And I was like, well, do you really just teach accounting? He's like, well, no, I teach accountants how to work less and make more. And I was like, how is that not heroic? I was like, go ask the kid who gets to spend an hour more a day with their parent. Go ask the spouse who's more connected to her husband or her, his wife, because they're not working as much. Go ask the kid who gets to maybe play a sport now that costs a lot of money. I mentioned our daughter plays travel soccer. It ain't cheap, and so those types of things, like, go ask the kids that if what you do is heroic.
Yeah.
And they will tell you that it is absolutely heroic. Daddy's home more. Mommy's home more. Daddy makes dinner. Mommy makes dinner. I get to spend time with them. We cuddled last night. It used to be that they would work 18 hours a day in the busy season, and now they work 10. They don't know that it was because of you, but that is heroic. And so there's three questions I mentioned, three questions that I ask myself, and these are what we walk our clients through. And this is all in the book, but I'll walk you through these here. Donna, number one, what is it that people are always asking you for help with? Okay. Nobody was asking me for help with leadership and personal growth. I am a leadership and personal growth junkie. I am good at it. I am passionate about it personally, but nobody was asking me for help with it. People were always asking me for help with, how do I grow my list? So we created a list launch challenge. How do I get more affiliates to promote myself? How do I make money from my blog when I don't have a product of my own? Affiliate marketing, right? My friend Jonathan Milligan, he had a career blog. And then people kept coming to him and saying, hey, how'd you start your blog? How'd you start your blog? Wait, you're making how much from your blog? How'd you do that? So now he teaches blogging. So again, what is it people are always coming to you and asking for help with? The second question is, what is it that people are always telling you is really interesting about you? They're just like, that is just fascinating about you. There's a podcast that I love. Dan Carlin is the host. It's called The Hardcore History. To give you some perspective, Donna, when they release a new episode, it is the number one podcast on all of Spotify, all of Apple Podcasts, all of Google Play, all of whatever podcast player you could think of for 3 or 4 days in a row. Not number one in the category. It is the number one podcast for roughly 1% of the entire year when they release a new episode. It's huge.
Yep.
Here's the thing. Dan is not a historian. And he says so like 5 times an episode. I'm not a historian. He's just a guy that when he would sit around at Thanksgiving dinner with his family and they'd be somehow something would come up and they'd end up talking about World War I. And he would talk about these fascinating stories that he'd heard about some of the soldiers on the front line and how the war affected them. And they would go, golly, Dan, that is fascinating about you. Like, you're such a great storyteller. So he started a podcast and runs a very successful business from it. The third question, what did you struggle with, but now you're enjoying success at, right? So what was a struggle, but now you enjoy success at? And I write about my friend, Alan Thomas, in the book. Alan, about 5-6 years ago, woke up one day, got on the scale, weighed 304 pounds. He said, and this was in his 50s. He said, Matt, I've been heavy for 40 years. I'd always been the husky kid. I'd always been overweight. I just never really thought I'd be over 300 pounds. And I saw that number and I went, okay, something's got to change. Less than a year later, he weighed 175.
Wow.
Now he coaches mostly men, but some women, on how to do what he did. And it's mostly mindset. He's not saying you need to eat this or don't eat this or do this exercise. And his clients are losing literally like hundreds of pounds. Some of them weigh less than half of what they weighed when they started working with him. I'm one of his clients. I lost over 88 pounds of fat in less than a year and a half working with him. And so, like, you see that and you go, well, he struggled with it for 40 years. And he says, Matt, the number one thing that my clients say, the reason, Alan, why I finally did something, he said, I would see all these commercials and all these people, and they look like they've been fit their whole lives. You know, they look like the type of person that's just, they've been in shape since they were a teenager, and they can't relate to me. I can't relate to them. Yep. I don't want that, Alan. But when I heard your story and heard, gosh, you know, you knew what this was like. These are 40 and 50-year-old, 60-year-olds, one of them 70-year-old men. One of the guys that we referred to him named Bob, it was 72 when he started working with him. He said, Matt, I had been overweight for more than 50 years. You think about that, like 50 years of your life to be in a certain condition. And now in a matter of 6-8 months, he was, you know, as healthy as could possibly be. He's doing things he never imagined he could do. And so that struggle led. So if you ask yourself those 3 questions and you work through those, like if the first question doesn't answer it, the second one will. If the second one doesn't answer it, the third one will. And by the time you get done with those 3, you know exactly what you're passionate about. And the key is just to be intentional, because you get to choose who you help. You get to choose who your audience is. If you try to serve everyone, you end up serving no one. And so if you're in the wedding industry, don't try to serve, bar mitzvahs. It's just like you're trying to be everything to everyone. Yeah. Focus on who you're going to serve and be intentional about it.
Yeah. And I think that is something that really comes up again and again with many of the guests that I have on the show. And just in general, in my learnings, is that people turn around and they say niche down. And people are like, I don't want to isolate people. And I keep having to remind my audience, or maybe I don't know. They don't tell me I need to keep reminding, but I do keep reminding them that just because you're niching down, just because you're saying, with your images, with your copy, that you serve beautiful countryside barn weddings in the summer in golden, beautiful tones, doesn't mean that somebody who is having a hotel wedding isn't going to come to you for your services.
Sure.
There'll still be people that resonate with you and resonate more with you because they can see how passionate you are about what you do.
The other thing you have to remember, though, is like your audience is always asking the question, does this person understand me? Do they get me? We want people to relate to us. We are attracted to people that we think that person gets us.
Yeah.
This person, like, again, what did I say about Alan? He wasn't super fit. He didn't have here's me when I was 23 and ripped. Here's me when I was 31 and here's my 6-pack abs when I was 31. No. This guy that had been overweight for 50 years was never going to relate to that.
No.
So Alan is not going to attract. There's a certain clientele he is not going to attract. He is not going to attract somebody who's 20 pounds overweight and wants to get in the best shape of their life in the next 6 months. He's not going to attract somebody who says, I want to get into the fitness industry. I'm 31 years old and I want to be a fitness model, but I'm a little bit over that. That's not who he's going to attract.
No.
He is attracting people who are 40 plus years old. Started working with him was 13 days before I turned 40, so 40 years old and older, roughly. They've got kids or their kids are out of, the house, and they have felt like this for 10 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not looking to, have like they're not looking to be in the greatest shape ever type thing. And, at least in the near future, they just want to get their confidence back. They want to, they want to be able to go up a flight of stairs and not be winded. And so, he niched down, he's not trying to be P90X. He's really focused on and initially he only focused on men because that's who he related best to because he's a man.
Yep.
And then eventually his wife went through the same process. His wife lost 90 pounds or something, 80 pounds or whatever. Now she is coaching the women on how to do the same thing. So they were able to open that up. But even then, he's focused on the men, she's focused on the women. So that niching down is super critical.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things we walk through in the book. And I know there's a lot out there, but the information that we give in the book, I think is the best out there about creating that ideal customer avatar. That single person that you're creating content for, that you're creating courses or products for, whatever it is. Like every email you send, every social media post is for that one person. For us, it's Pete. Now my audience is 50-50. It's actually 51% women. And so we have our ideal customer avatar. We named him Pete. And I write about this in the book. I always put his name in all caps so that if I'm reading something, my team gives me like a brief, right, on a piece of paper, and I'm reading that brief about this marketing plan. The thing that stands out is not the landing page, not whether or not we're going to have, these affiliates or this affiliate, the revenue goal. The thing that stands out because it's in all caps all throughout the brief is the avatar, is Pete. And it's this very subtle reminder, very subtle, that this is why we're doing this. This is for Pete. This is not because it makes more money. This is not because we're trying to hit our revenue goals for the quarter. No, we're doing this promo. We wrote this book for Pete. And in fact, one of the things that I did, and I actually messed it up because I forgot that I wrote about Pete in the book. One of the little tricks I use at the beginning of writing every piece of content, every email, every podcast episode, anything where I script at the book, is I write, "Hey Pete, hey Pete, here's how to create your ideal customer avatar. Hey Pete, ask yourself, what did you struggle with but now enjoy success at? Hey Pete, here's how to get clear on your path. Hey Pete, here's how to commit to leading. Hey Pete, here's how to capture attention and stand out. Hey Pete, here's how to convert visitors into subscribers," right? And I would write that. And then I went in at the end and I Command F'd and removed I didn't write "Hey Pete," I just wrote Pete. I removed all instances of Pete, comma, and I forgot that there was 5 instances in the book that weren't just me putting that at the beginning. And so there were a few sentences that made absolutely no sense. And my editor was like, "What the heck?" And I was like, "Oh wait, I get it now." And it's because it said my avatar's name is, and then there's just a blank, just a space, which blah, 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 blah. And she's like, "What is the avatar's name?" I was like, "It's Pete." And but it says in the book this. I'm like, "Oh crap." I was like, "Oh, that's what happened." So yeah. Oops.
Oh, well, best laid plans, best laid plans.
Yeah.
But that's a fantastic idea. And I've never even thought of it like that because I've done a lot of avatar work over my time, and I've talked to my audience about creating their ideal avatar and talking to them. But that idea of actually just literally like you're writing an email to them or a letter to them when you're writing your copy is genius.
Well, and I take it one step further. This is toward the very, very end of the book. I believe it's either step 9 or step 10. I go through a visualization exercise. All right. And so one of the things that I actually I teach is this doing this visualization where you actually see your avatar doing what you want them to do. And this is typically it's around sales because a lot of people are really iffy about sales. And so I walk them through it. It's kind of like you could say it's like a meditation, but I call it a visualization. You get down and you get comfortable, close your eyes, take some deep breaths, cleansing breaths. Right. And then I just walk them through hey, imagine, in my case, it's Pete. So imagine your avatar. You need to have a visual of who this is. They're reading the email, they're reading the blog post, they're watching your video, they're listening to the podcast. And then I go into detail, what are their emotions? Do I want this email? Do I want it to be funny? or do I want it to really be kind of like there's different tones that you can take. I talked about those archetypal roles and they all need to fit within the archetype, but do I want it to make them laugh? Do I need to see them laughing? Do I want it to make them, do I want it to pull at some heartstrings? Do I want them to pump them up? What is the purpose of this video, of this podcast, whatever? And I picture them clicking to the sales page or wherever it is. They're going to click and read the blog post, click and listen to the podcast. If they're buying something, I see them clicking on the enroll button, the buy button. And then I see them pulling out their debit card, their credit card, typing in their information, clicking submit, and going, all right, cool. And then I imagine them down the road. I imagine them a year, 3 years, kind of depends on the product. But like Alan, the weight loss coach, like he envisions, okay, I'm going to work with this person. And then 3 years later, they're going to be out in the yard playing with their kids, grandkids, dog, whatever. They're going to be, I'm going to see them walking in. He's got one guy in particular, Sean, that went from no joke. He was like 500 pounds. He's down to like 290 right now. Okay. And it's mind blowing. And he sees him walking into a conference room. He's also in this process. He's been promoted twice and won he works for a nationwide hotel chain with like 15, 20,000 employees. He won the award as like the number one employee in the entire world for this company in the process of losing this weight. Completely changed his identity. And so Alan can see these things happening. And so we take people through this visualization, because when I see Pete, when I see my avatar, their life getting easier, their relationships getting better, their results. Like my avatar, I don't see them in a Lamborghini. All right. I teach people how to make money online, but that's not how I do it. You'll never see me with like, look at me in my flashy car, you'll never see me with
my private jet a la Grant Cardone.
Like, you know what? I have no problem with a private jet. I have no problem with Grant. I know Grant. Grant, when you know him one-on-one, he's a great dude.
I'm sure he is. It's just the adverts on YouTube do my head in.
Yeah, I talk about this in the book, that like they asked Chris Rock, are you like this in person? He's like, no. He goes, I'm 3 times me. I'm me, but I'm 3 times me. And I talk about this in the book. Whatever you are, like, think about how I'm talking to you right now, Donna. I mean, I'm passionate about what I'm talking about. Do you think I talk to my wife this way? No, I'm a passionate person. I live passionately. I live excited. My message is important to me and I'm super excited, but I don't go around like with my friends going, all right, we're going to talk about the book and get your avatar. That's not who I am. I'm 3 times me. I am this passionate, but I'm a little bit toned down. The reality is, right? And so we're 3 times ourselves. Grant is just 10. He's 10x. 10x, right? He's 10x. That is when in real life, he's kind of like that, but it's like 10x. But anyway, so by picturing this whole thing, I have now put myself in a position that when I sit down to write copy, when I sit down to record a podcast, or I do a webinar, I'm getting ready to do a webinar after this. And before I do the webinar, I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to picture them going through the webinar and going, whoa, when I mention this one part where I teach them this one thing, going, man, I'm seeing them writing notes down. I'm seeing them flipping through the workbook going, I can't keep up with Matt. He's moving too fast. This is mind blowing. Is there going to be a replay? I can't wait to watch. I see them when I get to the part where I say, hey, if you want to go to the next level, here's this opportunity to join us in this course. I see them going to the URL. I see them buying. I fast forward. I see them, 3 months later going, holy crap, this is what I'm learning. This is amazing. I can't believe it. This is so awesome. And here's what I got out of it. I picture them writing me an email going, Matt, it worked. Here's what I did. And that's going to take me like 2 minutes. I'm going to do that whole thing in 2-3 minutes before I do the webinar. When I show up for that webinar, do you think I'm worried about anything? Like, do you think I'm worried about my delivery? Do you think I'm worried about messing up? Do you think I'm worried about what if nobody buys? No, because I put myself in a place where I visualize my ideal customer avatar doing exactly not only what I want them to do, but what is best for them, which is to go with this. So again, I walked through that whole visualization of the book, but that's the gist of it there.
Fantastic. I love that. I think that is so, so important for all of us, especially those of us that are more on the fear of sales, but guys, we need them.
There's a whole 15 pages where I talk about the fear selling, why people buy, how to get past the fear of selling. I mean, that's a whole area. That's a good 4 or 5% of the book. Because it's so true. It's like, I wasn't born. I didn't know how to sell. Nobody was born with, like, we weren't born with lists. We weren't born with social media followers, right?
Well, some of us
we weren't born.
Some of us new generation were born with.
Well, I wasn't born with that innate ability to sell. Like for me, every time it's still, to this day, it's nerve wracking. But if we're clear on who we're working with, and again, it goes all the way back to step one, get clear on who you help, who you serve, who your audience is, right? Answering those questions and going through some more of the activities in the book. We get clear on that. Then when we fast forward to the part where we're selling, we know who we're selling to, and we know literally who they are. What are their demographics? What are their psychographics? Like what are their fears? And it's not just their fears, like, like think about, you can think about like something like smoking, right? It's not just, well, I fear that I'm going to die early. Well, no, it's actually more than that. You fear that there's a social stigma. You fear that you're going to miss out on the best years of your kids' and grandkids' life. You fear, you have all these fears. In the weight loss thing, it's like, again, I'm going to die early. But the thing is, like, dying early is people think that should be the thing that motivates people. It's not. It doesn't motivate anybody, because dying early, unless you're 70, dying early is still way off into the future. To a 40-year-old, 60 might as well just be a million. It's only 20 years, but like 20 years, that is a long time. And so we need to get to those deep-seated fears. Sometimes it's like fear of getting on an airplane, fear of having to do, and these are things I can relate to because I've been there and done that. Fear of not being able to get on the roller coaster. Like fear of, am I going to get the skinny kid who can't press down on the buckle, and I'm going to have to get off the roller coaster. I got on last time because I got the big kid who was like, click, those are the things that people fear. So you have to get to those deep-seated fears. It's not fear that the business is going to fail. Nobody fears that their business is going to fail. That's not it. They fear that their uncle was right, that their spouse was right, that they were right about themselves. They fear that they're going to prove, their father-in-law right, their mother-in-law right. They fear that they're going to be in a position where they're going to have to sell the home. They're going to be on food stamps. Like maybe they've been there before, right? Those are the things people fear. And if you can address those fears in an ethical way, then selling is not a problem at all.
Yeah. So good. Right. I know that you have a hard stop, Matt, so I don't want to keep you much longer, but I just want to say thank you so much for that, because I think that getting clear on your avatar is really, really an important part of business. And if you are looking to step into this industry or any industry, is it your passion? Is it what you really should be doing? And going through those 3 questions that Matt brought up at the beginning would really, really help you just discover, because I don't want you to spend years going, oh, I'm going to do this because it's something I'm good at, and then realizing it's not. I don't want you to go through the 4 businesses like Matt did before he got it right. So get his book, get those 10 steps, ask yourself those questions, start it off right the first time so that you can miss out on all the mistakes that we've made over the years and really set yourself up for success. Thank you so much for your time today, Matt. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Donna. I'll just say, like, real quick, if you go to passionsintoprofitsbook.com/Donna. All right. So passionsintoprofitsbook.com/Donna. Make sure you put both ends in Donna, just in case you spelled Donna with one N. I know that's weird. It's Donna, if you ask me, but whatever. So /Donna. Got tons of special bonuses there for your listeners, Donna. Guys, right now it's like, depending upon when you guys go there, it's almost $1,000 worth of pre-order bonuses. It's a lot of the stuff I mentioned. I wrote 117,000 word manuscript. We cut it down to 82,000. My publisher was like, you got to cut it down to 80. I'm like, I'm at 82. Leave me alone. We're going with it. Like, okay. And so
I think if people get to 80, they're going to do the 2, aren't they?
Yeah. A lot of it is stuff that we just could not get in the book. There's an email marketing masterclass. There's an avatar training, and we got a little bit in the book, but this avatar training takes it to the next level. So tons of awesome stuff in there. Make sure you go grab it there. Again, passionsintoprofitsbook.com/Donna is that special URL for your listeners, Donna.
Fantastic. I will link that in the show notes, guys. Please do go over and take a look. It sounds absolutely fantastic. I've had a sneak peek. I'm really excited about it. So definitely go over and check that out. Thank you so much for your time, Matt.
Thank you, Donna.
See you next time, guys. Bye. Don't forget to hit those stars and leave a review of the podcast where you listen if you found value in what you heard today. It's a free way you can help the podcast reach more people just like you.